Hi everyone, this is Leslie Likens with CXPA, and I want to welcome you to yet another of our customer experience panels that we are conducting worldwide as part of the 2017 CX Day celebration. We are just one day away from Customer Experience Day at this point, and I am so excited to bring you another really fantastic panel today. Before we get started, I do have a couple of notes for all of you who are tuned in and watching today. First and foremost, our panel is live, and so you are welcome to ask them your questions. You can do that through chatting those questions into the question box there on your GoToWebinar panel. We'll be taking your questions live throughout the panel over the next 30 minutes, so I would encourage you to bring them to our group of experts here. Additionally, Customer Experience Day would not be doable without our phenomenal sponsors. And so we do want to say a word of thanks to those incredible organizations that have been a part of this from day one and really helped us to bring these discussions and the rest of the things that we are doing to celebrate customer experience to light. Now, before I move on, I do want to remind you that on top of being able to ask questions to our panel today, we'd also like to encourage you to feel free to tweet out anything that you find of interest. We are using hashtag CXDay. Our panel is being recorded, and it will be available to you afterwards. And you can find the recording for this discussion, as well as others that we have conducted over the past week worldwide at www.cxday.org. So I would encourage you to take a look at that as well. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Sue Duris, a CXPA member with M4 Communications, and Sue will go ahead and facilitate our panel today.
Great. Well, thank you, Leslie. Well, hello, customer experience professionals, and happy CX Day tomorrow. And welcome to the European panel webinar. And today we'll be talking digital CX, connecting the digital dots to create better experiences for our customers. So I would like to introduce our panel today. First, we have Ian Golding, CCXP, and an internationally renowned speaker and blogger. He is a CX consultant who advises companies on CX strategy, measurement, improvement, and employee advocacy. Next, we have Dr. Janne Ohtonen, who is Director of CX Management at Openet and is an internationally known author of 4 books. Next, we have Phil Hatton, who is Head of UK and Ireland Enterprise Business CX for Cisco Communications. And last, we have Madeleine Stamvik, who is CX Manager for Lloyd's Banking Group and has a wealth of experience in delivering digital experiences within the telecom, financial, and tech sectors. Okay, so Mopinion recently released their Digital Experience Benchmark 2016, and in it, it revealed that most major European companies still remain in the beginning stages of monitoring CX through digital channels. And as we know, digital is a very important piece of a company's overall omni-channel strategy. Yet some companies aren't doing digital at all or not doing it well. So the first question is, what are some of the challenges or roadblocks to companies offering a good digital CX? And anybody's welcome to chime in.
So I heard you mention the words omni-channel there in your question, and that's something that I've been thinking about lately, especially from the customer perspective. We actually conducted a research on this earlier this year, and it a little bit seems that the customers actually do not want to have omni-channel. So it's quite surprising if you put together how much companies are putting effort into all kinds of omni-channel strategies and technologies at the moment, but then are people really asking that, is that something customers want? Because if you think about it from customer perspective, you go to a specific channel to do a specific job, and then you basically hope that you get that job done in that channel. So why would you want to switch between the channels so that you have to switch the channel to get your job completed in a different channel? You only do that for the reason that the service provider is not able to serve you in that specific channel. So that's just something a little bit controversial I want to throw in the air, that if we would be able as service providers to serve the customers in the channel they want to be served end-to-end, so we solve the problem for the customer or the issue end-to-end in that channel, would they care about the omni-channel? Based on the research, not really. We also ask from the digital service providers, so this is especially in the telecommunication context, that what are the biggest problems they're having both in wider digital customer experience and in omnichannel, and there was 3 different things they reported. So these 3 different problems actually account for 70% of the challenges they have. So the first problem is that these projects they try to get done, they are just simply too big and they're too complex and they take too much time. So we're talking about tens or hundreds of millions of investment, 1 to 3 years. Some telecom companies are actually reporting that their digital transformation may take them 5 years. Do you think their customers are going to wait for them to finish their transformation next 5 years? Not really. The second problem is that there's no clear strategy or leadership in-house. So there are people coming and going from the leadership. So someone starts a digital transformation project, they leave the company or they are let go, and then that project is left lingering in the organization and they get paralyzed. So that was the second biggest problem. The third problem is that there's actually a lack of qualified staff and skills in-house. So they need to go out, buy it from the experts. Again, it takes too much time, it's too expensive, and they don't know what to do in the in-house. So those 3 problems account 70% of the challenges in this area, according to a report that we prepared a few months back. So those are my views on this one.
And I can sort of totally understand where you're coming from, and it is, I think, especially larger organisation finds it really difficult to really sort of make a change in this area. It's getting sort of, I feel that you need to have buy-in from the top, and that is not just, it's the very, very top that needs to be brought into the whole customer experience. Start with what you have in-house. I think a lot of companies go out and try to do too much. If you've got a voice of the customer panel, if you're using MPS, start there and don't try to sort of do too much to start with. But I think they are some of the blockers that we hear about, all these transformational programs and projects running, and they fail because we're trying to do too much. So I think it's sort of, and then also start in an area where you have buy-in, where people want to do it, and then I think that could sort of be an enabler to sort of actually succeed with really good digital customer experience.
I think from what we're seeing as well, I'd agree in the fact that consumers are going digitally first. So consumers don't pick up the phone when they want to find out information now. They go online, they try and self-serve through digital channels. If they can't find the answer to what they're looking for through the digital channels at that point, that's when they reach out and make contact. And I think that's where the point of connecting the digital experience with the human interaction that's going to be driving that to resolution is paramount, because they've exerted time and effort to try and self-serve at that point already. To then contact the organisation and have to do everything from scratch again is a great source of frustration. So we talk about the connected digital experience. How do we connect what's happening in the digital service channels with the individual that's actually delivering physical service at the time? And I couldn't agree more with regards to trying to do things too much all at once. We've got legacy systems, legacy business operations, so very much looking at how do we focus on what's going to be right for the customers and for the organisation and drive better benefit at that point.
I'd like to add a however, and because I always like coming in with a however, and the however, I often say that digital as a strategic priority become more significant in the eyes of many organisations than customer experience itself. That too many large organisations, and small, but predominantly large, waited for so long to the advancements in technology that they have now become over-obsessed too often in isolation of understanding the customer journey. And I think the biggest mistake that are making is that they are investing in digital technology without understanding the effect it will act on the journey. It shouldn't be digital or nothing. It should be customer experience first and understand how digital technology can better enable it.
Those are all very, very good points. So, what are the opportunities that companies have to ensure a good digital experience?
So, well, if I just continue on from what I was saying, I think the starting point has a collective, collaborative understanding of the customer journey. You know, too many businesses are still missing the purpose of creating the journey. But I think if any business has a digital strategy in place, if the strategy, the first opportunity is to make sure that that is addressed.
You know, I absolutely agree with you there. And I think, you know, some type of, you know, whatever we call it, personas, segmentation, whatever you sort of call it, but sort of understand who your customer are, how much they use digital, what type of digital devices they use, what are the preferences, you know, what are the age groups, what have you, and understanding who they are. And I think that is the big opportunity to then absolutely start to develop a strategy around your digital sort of experience you want to develop and services that you want to build or transform. But I think it's understanding who your customer are and what their needs are. Ask them, research, you know, guerrilla testing, what have you. I think there's opportunity to really get to know your customer and speak to them. If you've got branches, if you've got shops, what have you, go out and speak to them and see what they say and what they want.
There's quite interesting data that that asked what are they focusing on. I mean, C-level and the leaders in these businesses that are currently doing digital transformations and customer experience improvements, and 20% of them are simplifying the technology. So they are getting rid of the existing vendors and that kind of things. And then 20% are investing in the new digital products and services. So that accounts for about 40%. That leaves 60% waffling somewhere there between these two options, trying to figure out what to do. And I think Ian gave a really good answer earlier on where the actual opportunity lies. So you need to understand and start from the customer experience onwards, and if it needs something adding, then you add it because it's going to add value and you understand why it adds value. Or if it needs subtracting, then you take something out and make it simpler and easier for the customer. It may be digital, it may not be digital. That's completely irrelevant, because what is relevant is that the end-to-end customer experience or the journey actually works from the customer perspective. And something that I'd be actually reminded too often, if you ask me, but I suppose it's a good thing that somebody reminds me that we also need to make money for the business. So we need to understand that when we create these customer experiences, and it would be amazing to create the best customer journey and experience in the world, but if we're not going to make money from it, so it's not enough revenue, it's also the margin. So we need to make profit from that so that we can, as a business, continue investing into customer experiences. So when you balance those two things out, so you make money for the business, you know, healthy revenue and profit from there, and then you create the customer or make customer experiences better, then you are in the right area and you balance those two things out. So I think that's where the opportunity is, to balance those things out.
And just to add on, I think Ian's point of focusing on the journeys is really important. And when you look at the journeys, we've got to recognise as well that the journeys many different areas of the business. So when we can start to look at the journeys from even thinking about using a service or understanding that you need to use a service all the way through to using that service and after the event, there's more and more opportunity now to gather data from different stages of that journey. And the more information that we have as part of that journey helps us understand the journey better. It also gives us an opportunity to do things with that information, whether that's drive increased personalization based on their specific journey that they've been on, whether it's reducing customer effort based on the journey that they've been on. And it really gives you an opportunity to take that information and really go from being a reactive service to being more proactive with your service based on the information that you're getting through that customer journey. So completely agree, customer journey focused first, and then how can we leverage information, data, new technology to improve the journeys or revolutionize some of the journeys in certain instances based on what they're looking to do.
It's also quite interesting to think about it from the internal perspective, that who actually should be in the business who realizes these opportunities. So who should be leading it? And when we asked that from the digital service providers, they came back with 26%. So 26% of the companies said that the CTO, Chief Technology Officer, is leading these digital experience improvement initiatives, and 10% is led by the CEO. So I find that interesting because it accounts for 40%, and then the rest of that is divided by the rest of the organization, other people in the C-level. So maybe that's another sort of extra question for the panel: that who do you see as the best person or the best leadership position to lead it, and then who should they do this together with in the organization? So, because I think it's not very difficult to figure out what the opportunities are, but how do you get from idea to execution in the organization?
That's a very good question.
Yeah. So who would like to answer that?
I've got something that I sort of see. It's about education, because I think there's so many things sort of floating about you here: design thinking, service design, all these kind of words that are sort of being blown around, and we know what they mean, and it's user-centered design, and you've got interactive designers, and everyone is design, but what does it mean? And I think we have, as professionals within this area, an obligation to sort of actually not educate, but actually tell people what we do. What we bring, and Phil, to your sort of, and I think Ian as well mentioned it, the importance of actually getting our business people along with us, to make them understand that, we're not here to just deliver a new thing or a calculator or what have you. We're here to actually make sure that by delivering really good customer experience, we will actually turn the KPIs, the measurements that they have, whatever it might be, sales, service level agreements, what have you. But I think there's something, we can't just hide in a corner being all creative with our post-it notes and running workshops. We have to actually get out there and talk to the business people that runs the business and get them on board and understand what we do.
And the best way, in my opinion, of achieving that, and in also Janne / Sue, is that it shouldn't necessarily be one person. Effective way to deal with this is collaboratively. If the CTO works in isolation, then you will get technology that enables the customer experience to improve, not necessarily. But does the CTO understand the customer journey? So should it actually be a collaboration between technology, marketing, customer experience, all functions? Yes, is the answer. But the sad reality, which are words that I use far too often, is something that many organizations are failing to be able to do. And so when it comes to execution, individuals wanting to achieve their own objectives rather than everyone collectively for the benefit of the organization, its customers and its employees. Sorry, that's got a bit radical. Fortunately, that's what I see.
So let's talk about our third question. Now, a webinar wouldn't be a webinar if we didn't bring up trends. So let's talk about trends a little bit here. What trends do you, excuse me, what trends do you see in digital, in the way that companies are delivering digital experiences? And the second part to that is, are there any particular applications that will add more value over others? Uh-oh, I stumped the panel.
No.
It's a good question. I was thinking with the word applications. I was thinking the first application that comes to my mind is Netflix, but I don't know why that is. That has definitely added value, but it's probably not necessary. But the point.
Improve the employee.
Yeah. Exactly. If you think about what companies are doing and where they really go wrong at times, is that they take whatever experiences they're offering at the moment, whether it's partly or fully digital or not at all digital, and then they, hear from news or some trends or, buzzwords that, okay, we need to create an app. And they go to app developer, and whatever they were doing, they just say, literally translate this into an app. I have a friend who is doing enterprise architecture in Finland. He designs those apps, and he says that he's really well pissed off, to be honest, that the companies come to him and say that, okay, this is what we do today, please translate it into a mobile app, and you can't improve it, you can't do nothing, and that works against what Ian was saying earlier, which is that you should start from the customer experience forward, and then if the app or website or any digital solution is the right way to do it, then you go and do it. But I think one trend, which is currently probably driven by this hype of digital transformation, is that you take the existing business, you take the existing journeys, you take the existing business processes, and you just translate them into a digital solution. And that's when it goes wrong, because you waste the opportunity of redesigning the journey and redesigning the experience to be better than what it was before. And the beauty of these mobile devices is that you have very limited this real estate here, so you can't put all the stuff and bell and whistles you have on your website. You need to somehow make it work in the phone. If you do that properly, it's great.
So let me add to that.
Yeah.
Words to again address this question: simplification, accessibility, and what digital should be doing is better enabling an organization to meet the customers have, and making it easier for customers to do what they need to do, but at the same time making it they need to do. That will, without question, if we leverage the technology that can tell us more about, whether or not we're maximizing what's available. But I have regular conversations with clients who tell me that their IT provider says that they're using a fraction of the capability. So if we can better use technology to meet the basic requirements of customers, that then enables us to understand and then be used to differentiate the experience in the future. I think one of the issues is that people are thinking about differentiator, but actually the basics aren't right. And so it's the classic scenario: if you fairy dust onto a moldy cake, it might look nice, but it's going to taste horrible. And so what we need to be using technology for is both basics right and then enabling differentiation.
Ian, we see this time and time again when we have customers into our centre, and we're talking about the bells and the whistles of what you could do and how things could be, and how great a CX we can deliver. And fundamentally, so many of the customers that we talk to just don't do the basics right. They're still having challenges with routing, just even based on voice, based on who the individual is. They're still having challenges providing information to the agents at the most fundamental basis, because they've got legacy CRM applications that are tough to integrate to. So I think you're completely right. There's a level of basics first, and then there's enhanced, and we're all talking about the enhanced, but we need to get the basics right first and then build upon. Some technology trends or some technology areas which seem to be buzzing around at the moment, and this comes from Dimension Data's 2017 Customer Experience Benchmarking Report. The 3 top trends at the moment identify: number 1, virtual assistants; number 2, web chat, but co-browse and instant messaging. So we're starting to see organisations, in fact, I engaged with an organisation through Facebook Messenger the other day. I've never done that before. There's more channels to engage than ever, but also proactive notification. How do we go from reactive to proactive? So we see all these as trends, but if you read the report, it also shows that the basics aren't being done at the same time. So it's a real balance of how do we get the basics right, and then how do we build and drive, you know, exceptional experiences in the right areas? Because again, not everyone needs to deliver exceptional customer experience in every particular interaction area. Sometimes we just want to give them the information and make sure it's right and accurate. So couldn't agree more with that whole point about focus on the basics and then look at layering on enhanced capability.
Just one thing on you sort of asked about sort of what I see perhaps sort of coming from inside sort of the bank and what we are seeing sort of around us happening, and I think that the ones that experiment are the ones that sort of, you know, stand out for me. Had an interesting insight into Barclays, who's now released like a mini app store on their home screen for RBB customers, where you can sort of link in your accountancy software, what have you, and it's sort of a playground almost, where they can sort of see how customers interact with the different areas if they are interested. Of course, it's all to do sort of collecting data about their customers and actually understanding more how they do their business. But I think that was an interesting area. For me, I think another area which is sort of looking very much as speaking to the customers is a bank here in the UK called Monzo, who are sort of very much interacting with the customers. They are you know, actively sort of saying how many are signing up. You know, they are giving sort of blog updates daily on the websites and on the phone application. So, you know, I think there are some interesting areas, and it is the companies that dare to experiment, that want to sort of try things that are sort of, for me, are standing out as sort of trendsetters, trying, as you mentioned, Phil, new technologies, which are not new. But I think now with the data power in the background, we can actually now start to utilize things like AI, chatbots, you know, handing over, because I think before, you know, it's not until this sort of now we have the power behind to actually drive these type of applications.
So we have a question from the audience, so I'll just bring that up to you. And this is a reminder to those of you who are tuned in. If you do have a question for our panel, please feel free to chat that in and we'll bring it up. But this particular question deals with, so if your organization is very, revolves around the digital experience and is really technology heavy, how do you as the CX professional start to get them back into a place where they're looking at the overall CX strategy? What would be your first steps that you would take to help center around a CX strategy?
So I'm going to sound repetitive here, but I would suggest that you create a visualization of the journey, put it up on a wall in a boardroom or and overlay the existing activities that are being conducted onto the journey, and physically, visually demonstrate where that digital where there are gaps. It's important, in my view, to do this not in a PowerPoint presentation, to get this physically up on a wall and bring leaders, decision makers who are driving that digital activity, and show them or validate with them whether the strategy is all encompassing across the end-to-end journey, or if that digital strategy is actually being done without a real understanding of how it can affect the end-to-end.
Yeah, I'm with Ian on this one. I'm writing a new book on customer experience management in telecoms, and in that I have a full chapter dedicated exactly to answer that question. So my previous book, The 5-Star Customer Experience, which by the way has a brilliant chapter written by Ian here, so that gives you practical tools on how to do that workshop. In that book, we didn't talk about technology, it's about internal handover, so processes mapped to the customer journey, but you can literally use the same approach. You just get different colored post-it notes and put your technology on the same map. and you get the alignment. But what we're doing now in the next book, and this is currently being tested with a couple of companies, is that we have mapped customer experience strategy to customer journeys in the business processes, in the use cases, in the technology, and then in the domain model and the databases. So effectively, we should be able to say that you have some piece of data that should show that where does it contribute in the customer journey. Same way, a piece of technology, software, hardware, doesn't matter. We can see how does it contribute to the journey, how does it contribute to customer emotions, needs, wants, and expectations, and all of it. So that framework is coming up, and hopefully it's available early next year. But you can get started already with the 5-star customer experience book and just literally use post-it notes to do exactly what Ian was saying, that you just map those things onto your customer journey, and it already probably gives you enough insights to start doing something with it.
Thank you all. No other questions right now, but if you do have questions in the audience, our time is running short, so I encourage you to put it in now.
So let's go around the panel, and why don't you provide us with your top one or two pieces of advice that you have for CX professionals and how they can develop and implement a digital CX strategy.
So shall I start? My view, so in addition to what I'm considering around the journey, the other piece of advice I would give to any CX professional is to consider who it is as you go about driving the approach to customer experience in your organization. Spend an inordinate amount of time trying to influence either the CEO or the CMO, or if there is a chief customer officer, maybe that direction, but we don't spend enough time influencing the IO or CTO and the CFO. And if we want to have an ability to bring the organization together, including those that drive technology, having the CIO/CTO and the person who holds the purse strings in the very long way to getting people to listen. If we ignore them, they may well consciously consider that customer experience has nothing to do with them. And you know, the truth could not be further from that. So influencing strategy that we need to consider overlaying onto the things that we do.
And I couldn't agree more with you. I think that is sort of the key to sort of succeed here. It is about sort of influencing. It is about to have a vision and use tools that sort of can showcase that. I think it's sort of important to do your sort of background checks, background work, gathering your insights, understanding the customer, understanding what exists in the company, especially larger organizations. Are the pockets of, you know, insights team, you know, designers, try to find out who they are, what they're working on, what they have done, try to understand, you know, if you have produced good CX within the organization, where that is, because that's probably a friendly area to work with, and then sort of start from there, showcase that. Of course, make sure that you bring the business along and you know, build a business together. You know, just as we have a design spec, we should have a business case. They should marry together. You know, they should go hand in hand together up to, you know, the CXOs, whatever they might be, and that they are the ones, you know, you can go to with actually showcasing this is what it means. And if you can't get it internally, you know, try to find good external sort of references that are related to the business you work with. I think that is the key. And then, you know, as I said before, collaborate not just with the designers, but with everyone in the business to make sure you drive a really good customer experience.
I'd add to that and agree with both the comments. And we touched upon this earlier in terms of where to start. So I think great in terms of making sure you're influencing the right people with the authority to help drive a lot of this change, and not just the authority, the influence to drive some of this change from right from the top in the board all the way through the organisation. Then you've really got to look at where you can focus on that's going to drive value quickly, because we can spend an awful lot of time looking at improving different areas of the journey that actually the customers don't particularly care about. So looking in areas where a high value for the customer and also high value to the company, you know, there's a mutual win-win there. So let's look at those journeys and how we can drive improvements in those journeys where there's a low, you know, there's low value to the customer and there's low value to the company. How can we even get rid of those engagements and start to take those off the table? So I think there's an activity that once we've decided that it's an absolute differentiating strategy to drive enhanced business performance, we get the cultural buy-in, and then we need to look at driving some focus to make sure that what we deliver, you know, delivers benefit both for the customer and for the organisation.
I try to summarize what you said. I've been doing this for a while now, and thinking about what really works, and maybe this is a little bit cynical view, but what really works is that you figure out what the people want, and typically that's the senior leadership in the company, so board, the CEO, you know, C-level, whatever. And actually the funny thing is that this works regardless on what level you are in the organization. You just need to figure out what the people in the further up in the food chain actually want, and then you wrap it up, put it in a sexy package and give it to them. And by the way, that sexy is spelled C-E-X-Y, not with S. So what you do is you give them what they're looking for in a customer experience package. If they want revenue, you go and you figure out where you can get revenue. It's very easy to do that through customer retention or customer acquisition, MPS, you know, CSAT kind of things. If they want profit, then you go and you optimize the processes based on what adds value to customer and what doesn't. If they want digital transformation, you go there and you give that in the customer experience package. You say that this is how the digital customer experience is going to be better. So it's very hard, especially in the beginning, to change what they want. So don't waste your energy trying to change what they want, but actually give what they want in the sexy package.
Are there any questions from the audience?
No further questions from our audience today.
Well, thank you everybody for attending this webinar, and be sure to check out all the CX Day resources at cxday.org. And I want to personally thank all of our panelists today.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thanks to all of our panelists. We're nice. If you enjoyed this particular discussion, we have more coming today. We have another panel like this coming from Latin America later on this afternoon, as well as an online Twitter chat today using hashtag CXDay, and we encourage you to join us for that as well. We'll be talking about the customer experience professional. So thank you to all of you for sharing your thoughts and leadership today, and we will look forward to celebrating our 2017 Customer Experience Day tomorrow, Tuesday, October 3rd, worldwide.
Hey.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.